Macmillan Audio presents The Masque of the Red Death by Cory Doctorow. Read for you by Stefan Rudnicki. Before the event, Martin Mars spent a lot of time trying to game it out. Would the collapse be sudden, catching him off guard and unprepared, having to fight his way to his fortress as he escaped from Paradise Valley and into the desert hills? Or would there be some kind of sign? A steady uptick in civil disorder and failures from the official powers that counted down to the day, giving him a chance to plan an orderly withdrawal to Fort Doom. This was important. If Martin spooked and ran for Fort Doom too early, he'd have to slink back to the city and his job after however many days he'd spent bunkered up. Not only would it be humiliating, but it would cost him credibility with the 30, the people he'd invited to survive the apocalypse with him. Once Fort Doom was buttoned up for the duration, he'd need to be a credible leader or he could lose control. Who the fuck knew what would happen next? He had visions of some distant descendant cracking the big doors and finding their mummified corpses sprawled in the postures they'd crumpled into when the ravening mob had turned on itself. Every time he sounded the alarm and brought the 30 out, he increased the chance that one or more of them would leak the existence of Fort Doom. They were all under strict pledges of secrecy, but when shit's going down, someone's gonna leak to that cute girl they were trying to get with, and/or leave a trail that some curious rando would follow. There would come a day when the 30 would have to defend what was theirs from the people who'd lacked the foresight to build their own fortresses. But Martin's preference was for that day to be a long way off, after they'd had a chance to cohere into the mutual survival unit they'd need to be to wait out the event. So, there were many reasons not to send up a flare and summon everyone to the fort prematurely. But what about the costs of waiting too long? Paradise Valley was all right, sure, but Phoenix was right there on their doorsteps, and there were so many people with so little to lose out there, people who were already killing and raping each other. What would they do once the cops were all too busy struggling for their own survival to defend the stolid burghers of Paradise Valley? Wait too long, and it might be Mad Max time, fighting his way through God knew how many bad guys to get out to the hills. What if they followed him? He could get the fort buttoned up, even if he was fighting a rearguard action. The fort's defenses were explicitly designed for that. But any of the 30 who showed up would be torn apart by the besieging army before they could get to the fort's door. Or worse, they'd make it to the door, but it would be too dangerous to let them in. That would be a real confidence booster when it came to his leadership, watching helplessly from inside the fort while the chuds and zombies ripped a work colleague to shreds on the doorstep. It was a hard problem. It was never far from Martin's mind as he sat at his Bloomberg terminal and watched the markets move, the currencies rise and fall, the assets bubble up and tank. Martin knew that the event was coming. The fact was the world just didn't need all those people anymore, and the market had revealed that fact, squeezing them into tinier, more uncomfortable places. He wouldn't tolerate it if he was in their shoes. He'd be the first one to build a guillotine. And because he was Martin, it would be an awesome guillotine. So absolutely badass and over-engineered, with a turbocharger and a self-sharpening blade. Because that was Martin all the way. It's why Fort Doom was the incredible place it was. It was all about information asymmetries. Markets corrected them. If knowing a secret could make a stupid, unworthy person rich, then sooner or later, smart, superior people would find that secret out and clear out the misallocated wealth of all those dim bulbs. Markets were awesome at this. Back when everyone lived in shithole mud street villages, the superior people had no choice but to breed with whoever was in the vicinity. Even a 1 in 10 million Six Sigma genius would end up hitched for life to some cow-eyed milkmaid, diluting the incredible genes he'd been handed by nature's Powerball lotto. But little by little,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?